Place your bets, amigos, you jackwagons. Brad the Big Noise Evans here, flying again on this solo mission. 'Tis indeed the Fade 5 podcast presented by Suavecito Tequila. It's a Friday. It's time to party, maybe with some parlays. But what you got to do is pour a little añejo in a nice and neat glass and sip on it and enjoy your evening with that fine bottle of Suavecito available at Total Wine and More. And you don't have it in your liquor store, demand it. Get that love juice on the shelf and get it into your system if you partake in such activities. This is, again, the Fade 5 podcast. Download it wherever you get your podcasts. And Nathaniel Lundy is out. He is on vacacion in Mexico right now, probably dealing with a throbbing headache due to the prior night's activities. And my prior night's activities also triggered some head throbs as well in the world of college basketball, and especially in Champaign, because I was in attendance for the University of Illinois dismantling against Indiana. I think Trace Jackson Davis just refused to miss baskets. At one point in the game, he was 13 of 15 from the field, nailing repeated high percentage shots, kissing it off the glass, slamming it home. Illinois refused to double team him, and as a result, they dropped a game by 15 inside the friendly confines of the State Farm Center. So Illinois, I thought you would round it a corner. You were on a 4-game winning streak, and then head scratcher last night occurred. So we'll see what this means moving forward, and congrats to the Hoosiers. They absolutely deserved every bit of that victory. With that in the books, let's go ahead and get into my favorite NFL side and total pick to click in this divisional round. And I'm going to go with a little money line action. We're going to take the spreads out of the equation here. And the lines that I really like. So the teams to win straight up, in other words, give me the Buffalo Bills, knowing that Cincinnati has a ton of offensive line issues right now. Missing 3 key players on that front. The Buffalo Blitz should come hot and heavy in this game. We know how good that secondary has been this season, though. The front line at times has been sketchy against the run, and I don't want to discount the brilliance of Joe Burrow, the brilliance of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and occasionally Tyler Boyd and Hayden Hurst, or Mixon as a receiver out of the backfield. But that trench warfare could be extremely problematic for the Bengals. So give me Buffalo to take the victory straight up. Give me Kansas City also on the money line. They're fair by 8.5 against Jacksonville. They're at home. They should be able to pick apart a secondary you could take advantage of, dinner movie defense at times in that realm, in that capacity. And Patrick Mahomes, you want to talk about a guy that just elevates his game in the postseason. He is certainly it. And then the last leg, give me the Niners on the money line. So again, Bills, Niners, and Chiefs, all 3 of those teams just simply win. You're looking at north of plus 150 odds right now at BetMGM. So that's how I am approaching it. I'm not touching the Giants and Eagles game against the spread or on the money line. I mean, the G-men show up like they did last week, and granted, the secondary, a far different story for the Philadelphia Eagles compared to the Minnesota Vikings. But get Saquon going, Daniel Jones in that duality, they could push the Eagles to the brink, to the limit in this division rivalry / playoff matchup. So I'm going to avoid that game, but the other 3 on the money line at plus 158, I believe to be exact, at BetMGM is awfully enticing. With that also in the books, let's get after it with another edition of the Fade 5. All right, numero 5 on the list today. Let's go with a steady Eddie that has consistently cash for those that have backed it, and that is Brock. Ain't he so purdy? Over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Minus 125 right now at FanDuel, the lightest juice currently in the industry, and I will not be surprised by kickoff on Sunday that this line rises to, juice-wise, about minus 150, minus 155. Purdy has done this in 7 consecutive games, and a guy that's completed over 75% Again, I'm going to repeat that like I did last week. Over 75% of his red zone attempts. So he's comfortable, whether it's finding Christian McCaffrey for some dump-off action, Brandon Ayuk in the back of the end zone, George Kittle as well on some big chunk gains or within striking distance inside the 20-yard line. Purdy's just undeterred. He doesn't get razzled dazzled at all by the opposition. Unfazed contributor right now in the box score. And I know Dallas has a pretty good secondary, but they have allowed a couple of guys over this line, over the 1.5 line on the season. 7.03 pass yards per attempt, 273 pass yards per game. And what I mean by a couple, they have done that in terms of what they have given up in the last 6 games. So a couple of multi-TD passes there. Purdy is going to add to his name to the list. And the Niners going to pan for that gold and strike it rich and advance on to the NFC Championship. All right, advancing on the pod today, give me the over on Saquon Barkley. Going to work those Saquads, those tree trunks. Got a flexy, sexy time in this matchup as a receiver, as a pass catcher. So give me that over 25.5 receiving yards, minus 110, a little bit lighter juice there at BetMGM. Now, Philadelphia has been pretty good in short field coverage this season. They gave up a 4.8 receptions and 30.1 receiving yards per game of the running back position in the regular season. But 8 guys brought in at least 26 receiving yards. That's what they posted in the box score at running back against them. Barkley was not one of them. Back in week 14, mysteriously, only had 11 touches in that game, and strangely only had 3 targets, caught 2 balls for 20 yards. I think he's going to be more active as a receiver, similar to what we saw last week against Minnesota, in which he had 6 targets, 5 receptions, and 56 yards. He has been over this number, including that game against the Vikings, in 3 of his last 4. A guy that's running 18.2 routes per game. So going away from Bradbury, going away from big play Darius Slay, I think the point of emphasis and one of the key strategies of the Giants is finding a way, either opportunistically in the check down game or on design screenplays, to get the ball in space to say quads, and hopefully he's going to flex it enough to get us to at least 26 receiving yards, which I believe he is destined for and will occur. All right, marching on here on this abbreviated edition of the Fade 5 podcast. Give me an SGP and come with me on this one. The pair of Buffalo Bills, give me Josh Allen, 255 plus pass yards. Let's correlate, synergize, bring it all together. If I like him to achieve that, he's probably going to be throwing the ball to his primary target, his main man, at Stefon Diggs. So give me 65 plus receiving yards. And if both of those achievements occur, you're looking at plus money, plus 105 right now at DraftKings Sportsbook. You look at Josh Allen, a guy that has, number 1 in total air yards in the regular season, threw for at least 255 plus yards in a game 7 times in the regular season. And last week he did it for 352 to tune of against the Miami Dolphins. And granted, the Dolphins secondary much softer by comparison to Cincinnati, who in the last 6 games has given up 6.94 pass yards per attempt, but have allowed 268 pass yards per game to opposing signal callers. 8 guys have achieved at least 255 plus pass yards versus the Bengals this season. Meanwhile, you look at Diggsy, number 3 in yards per route run. He is number 12 in yards after the catch as well. And he's going to see a lot of Cameron Taylor-Britt in coverage from Cincinnati. And that is very much a positive because Taylor-Britt has been a bit of a push over. 14.5 yards per catch he's allowed on the season and a 105.1 passer rating to boot. So again, Josh Allen, 255 plus pass yards. Stefon Diggs, can you Diggs it? Hell yes, I can. At the tune of 65 plus receiving yards. Both of those hit. You're looking at a very spicy and a baby seduced by the juice at plus 105 at DraftKings Sportsbook. All right, sticking with the SGP theme, and come with me again, maybe, on this one. Juicier as a result. And in the opposite direction, minus 125. I put this together at BetMGM, but I think this one hits. I'm going to go Isiah Pacheco, 50-plus rush yards in Kansas City on the money line, simply to win. I talked about him in the three-legger, all money lines at top of the show, and now I'm incorporating it here in the SGP game. It only makes sense, right? And it correlates, synergize, bring it all together, line of thinking here. If you're going to have a sizable lead, who is going to get the ball in the belly and solve it with the clock? It's not going to be Jerick McKinnon. Maybe a little bit of Ronald Jones, but likely it's going to be the rookie out of Rutgers, who's going to skewer Scarlet Knight style the trenches here against the Jags. Now, I got to give credit where credit's due. Jacksonville's been damn good against the run here in their last 6 games. 3.67 yards per carry and 77.5 rush yards per game allowed. 2 rushers. That's all they've given up. Now you look at Pacheco, a guy that is always falling forward, a guy that relishes contact, 3.00 yak per attempt on the season, which is a standout number in that category. He's hit the over on 50 rush yards in 8 of his last 9 games. And again, given the positive game script, this should be more of a 13 to 15 carry kind of contest for him, not the 8-9 variety that we've seen the last couple of weeks. So recapping, Isiah Pacheco pounds his way to 50-plus rush yards, and Kansas City wins straight up minus 125 on that SGP/OGP at BetMGM. All right, my numero uno play of the weekend. Give me Travis Etienne over 19.5 receiving yards, minus 110 at BetMGM. Now, this line, I grabbed it when it opened at 17.5, and I still think this is still a very achievable number. This is low for 19.5. You got to remember, he faced the Kansas City Chiefs already way back in Week 10. He had 3 catches for 28 yards in that game. The other thing to keep in mind is this. James Palmer at NFL Network reported that the centerpiece of the game plan defensively for Kansas City is trying to contain Travis Etienne. But I think what he's alluding to is between the tackles, not in space, not in the pass game, not on situations where, he is a dump-off, check-down option, and you have to kind of live in the moment. I think Etienne is going to have at least 25 receiving yards in this game. He's a guy that averaged 14.4 routes per game on the season in totality, 5.7 yards per touch as well. That's what he averaged in the regular season, and 9.1 yards per reception on the year. So including that historic come from behind victory last week against the Chargers. He has been over this number in 3 of his last 5 games. And here is the most important takeaway. And the biggest crux of the argument, Kansas City allowed the most receptions, 107 in total, to the running back position in the regular season, and the second most receiving yards per game to RBs as well, that number being 45.8. 18 dudes went over this number at the running back position against them, and I think Etienne is going to make it 19 and get closer to 20 overall. So, in a game that should trend in Kansas City's direction, this prop should trend in a profitable direction if you back Travis Etienne over 19.5 receiving yards, minus 110 at BetMGM. All right, it's bonus time here on the Feed 5 podcast. Let me give you another player prop, a couple of them actually that I like this weekend in the National Football League. Let's go back to that Kansas City and Jacksonville matchup. Give me Patty Mahomes. Going to be doing booty scoots because, again, it kind of runs uncomfortably like he's got to go number 2. But I'm going to take the over on 23.5 rush yards for him. Available at BetMGM at minus 115. A guy that averaged 3.6 attempts per game on the ground in the regular season, 21.1 rush yards per game as well. And you go back to Week 10, that first matchup against the Jags. When they over-pursued, he took off and sprinted his way easily to an over cash. 7 carries for 39 yards in that matchup. He's hit the over on 23.5 rush yards in 8 games this season. And more importantly, too, we have seen a history of him running more often in the postseason. He has hit the over on this number in 3 of his last 6 playoff matchups. Jacksonville on the regular season 7 guys went over this number against them. They allowed the third most rush yards to the quarterback position as well, giving up an average of 27.6 rush yards per game. So calculate it all up, and it's a very easy and simple play here, backing it all with the data that I just presented on the over. Patrick Mahomes, 23.5 rush yards. Elsewhere, I love Isaiah Hodgins. I wrote about him in my piece for Bally Sports, Top Props. Go check it out right now at ballysports.com. I'm thinking they were on 40.5 receiving yards. Points bet, the lowest in the market right now. A little bit juiced at minus 125 on that prop, but I think it's going to be worth it. Hell, I played this number up to like 47.5 on Hodgins. He has hit the over on 40.5. In 3 of his last 4 games, a guy over that 4-game stretch has seen 29 targets. He is tearing it up in the intermediate field on a lot of these slant routes, building an instant chemistry with Daniel Jones, and it's going to continue to bud this week. I know he's number 81 in average depth of target on the season, number 18 yards per reception, but it's all about that cranked volume. And it's going to be ear-piercing, I believe. This could be a 7 to 9 target kind of game. I understand that Philadelphia hasn't relinquished a whole lot to the wide receiver position. He had 4 catches for 38 yards and a touchdown in Week 14 against the Eagles. And the Eagles allowed the 4th fewest wide receiver yards in the regular season because of James Bradbury, because of Darius Slay. But Hodgins, in a game that could go sideways, that is a possibility on the table for the Giants, which would increase the likelihood of this overhitting. I think he gets there, and I say double bonus time, double bonus time. He finds the end zone as well. Give me an anytime touchdown at plus 260 right now at DraftKings for Hodgins. As I mentioned, he's been peppered with targets, a lot of those coming inside the red zone, and he had a touchdown, as I said before, Week 14 against the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, let's go to the world of college basketball. I'll give you a couple action plays here on this Friday. I'm going to take the over in the Boise and New Mexico game. Right now, I believe in the mid-140s. Boise playing at a faster pace than they're accustomed to, at least historically, within Mountain West action this season. They're a team right now, number 4 in adjusted tempo. New Mexico, one of the fastest teams in the country. They are top 5 in the nation in adjusted tempo. And not only that, but you look at New Mexico, number 151 in effective field goal percentage defense on the season, yet they are number 37 in adjusted offensive efficiency. They got excellent guard play, highlighted by Jamal Mashburn, who has reached 20 points, I believe, in 4 of his last 5 games. And a team that is, at times, lights out, whether in the mid-range game, off the glass, or from long distance. Meanwhile, you look at Boise State. They're 5-1 right now in Mountain West action, a team that is not getting enough love, I feel, on the national scene. Number 1 in adjusted offensive efficiency. Number 1 in Mountain West play as well, and adjusted defense efficiency. They are shooting an incredible 42.9% from along the arc in Mountain West play, and 53.1% inside of it. They played decently on the road. They got a winning record in true away games. They are 3-2, where they are shooting 38.3% from distance on the road. So Shaver and friends, I think, are going to show up offensively in this game. A team that has scored at least 75 points, I believe, 9 times this year. And New Mexico also relishes, reaching the mid-upper 70s or crossing the 80. And we got overtime as a possibility as a spread in this game right now at 2.5 favoring New Mexico. So don't be at all surprised if an extra session happens. Even if it doesn't, I still think this game goes over the 144.5 total. And I am not an arachnophobe. Give me Richmond, the Itsy Bitsy Spiders, plus 1.5 at home against VCU. Richmond this season, 9-1 at home in the overall, and in the Atlantic 10, they are number 3 right now in adjusted defensive efficiency. Now, they've been miserable from 3-point distance, shooting only 29.6% in conference, but they don't commit a lot of turnovers. And that's what VCU feeds off of. Those mistakes, they pressure you like crazy. That Havoc defense that Shaka Smart installed years ago is still front and center, still in place there. in the Commonwealth. And you look at VCU offensively, they're shooting 47.5%, which is absurd in conference play from 3-point distance. And again, those turnovers, 25.8% of the time, they have coaxed a mistake. That is number one in league play. So if Richmond protects the rock and they make a few threes, they don't have to get, white hot from outside. I think they could not only cover the +1.5, but also take this game on the money line. So itsy bitsy spider is going to crawl up your bank account and maybe make you some money. So to review the over, I like the Boise State, New Mexico game, which tips off at like 11 Eastern. So the late night tip, crack another beverage, sit back, relax, and enjoy. And Richmond +1.5. All right, I am out of time here on the Fade 5 podcast. Do me a flavor. Would you ever so kindly rate and review the show for us and feed or follow our picks on the Twitter? You can follow me at Noisy Huevos. My spreadsheet, I update it every single day. Got all my action there. It's been bad in the NFL. I think I'm down like 40 units. So fade all the picks that I recommend in this podcast. But I'm up over 30 units right now in college basketball. However, I can feel it. The culprit, it's coming through any day now. As regression's going to kick in, but hopefully not anytime soon. Also follow my buddy Nate Lundy and all his picks, though he's not posting anything because he's going to be drunk the entire week in Mexico, at Nate Lundy. That's all time I got today. I will be back, I think, with Lundy on Tuesday. Until then, as always, feed or follow. That is up to you.